So guys, you know what the situation is with the Steelers running back room going into this season. Everybody's locked in on Jaylen Warren and Kaleb Johnson as the guys who are going to carry the load, but there's no real proven third option behind them. No depth piece you can actually trust if one of those two goes down. And instead of Pittsburgh going out and adding a name everybody would recognize, turns out they've had a guy sitting on their roster for almost a full year now. A guy both the old coaching staff and this brand new McCarthy staff refused to cut, even when they were clearing out other players left and right. So stick around because I'm going to break down who this guy is and why the Steelers are so quiet about it. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Okay, so let's get into it because honestly, the more I dig into this guy's story, the more I think this is one of those under-the-radar situations that Steelers fans need to be paying attention to. The name is Lou Nichols III. And look, I know most of you have probably never heard that name before, and that's exactly the point. This isn't a guy who's making headlines. This isn't a guy getting hyped up on national TV. But when you look at what he's actually done and how this organization has treated him, it tells you something. So let me give you a little background here, right? Because I think it matters. Nichols was a college rushing champion. I mean, back in 2021 at Central Michigan, this guy led the entire FBS in rushing yards. We're talking almost 1,850 yards on the ground, and he did it on over 340 carries. That's a workhorse, guys. That's a guy who was the engine of that entire offense. At 5'10", 220 pounds, honestly, that's the exact build the Steelers have always loved in the backfield. Physical, downhill, wears you down over 4 quarters, that's the Pittsburgh Steelers type. That's always been the Pittsburgh Steelers type. But here's the thing, and this is where it gets interesting. Going from college stardom to actually sticking in the NFL, that's a whole different animal. Nichols got picked in the 7th round back in 2023 by Green Bay. 7th round, guys. That's about as close to not getting drafted as you can get. Then he bounces to Philadelphia's practice squad for a bit, and eventually he lands in Pittsburgh. And once he's here, he spends basically all of last season grinding on the practice squad, only getting one brief look on the active roster to show what he could do on special teams. So, I mean, think about that journey for a second. This is a guy who had it all in college and then had to scratch and claw just to hang on to a roster spot, team to team to team. That's not an easy road, right? That's the kind of thing that either breaks a guy or it builds him. And from what I'm seeing, it built him. Now, here's where it gets really telling, okay? When Nichols got asked about switching over to Mike McCarthy's offense after playing under Arthur Smith last year, he didn't throw anybody under the bus. He didn't say the old system was garbage or the new system is so much better. He basically said both coaches are great and he's just excited to keep working. And look, I know that sounds like a small thing, but honestly, it's not. That's maturity. That's a guy who understands that what you say publicly actually matters, that it affects your locker room, it affects how coaches view you. You'd be surprised how many young guys don't get that, how many guys blast the old regime the second a new one shows up. Not Nichols. He's a grown-up about it, and I think that's a big part of why he's still here. And let's talk money for a second, because this is actually a smart, low-risk move by the front office, too. Back in January, Pittsburgh locked Nichols up on a reserve futures contract. Basically, that's league minimum money. We're talking a cap hit under $900,000. So this is a guy who costs the team almost nothing and gives them a dependable body at a position where you always need bodies. It's the kind of signing that doesn't move the needle for the salary cap at all, but gives you insurance if something goes wrong at running back. Now, here's what really got my attention, though, and I think this is the real story here. Let's walk through the timeline real quick. Nichols signs with Pittsburgh back in July of last year, gets waived at the end of training camp, which, look, that happens. That's just a numbers game every single team goes through. Then he gets brought right back onto the practice squad in late August. In November, he actually gets elevated to the active roster, shows what he can do, then reverts back down to the practice squad. And then in January, they go ahead and lock him up on that futures deal. So think about what that means. We are now sitting here in July, and this entire time, through a full coaching change, through Mike McCarthy coming in and completely reshaping this roster, bringing in his own guys, letting veterans walk in free agency, cutting guys, waiving guys, all off-season long, Nichols is still here. Nobody moved on from him. And that, to me, tells you everything, because it's not like Pittsburgh has been shy about making changes this offseason. They've cut ties with players. They've let guys leave in free agency at real, meaningful positions. But this practice squad running back, who most fans don't even know exists, he survives every single wave of cuts. And honestly, I don't think that's an accident. I think both coaching staffs, Arthur Smith's group and now McCarthy's group, they're seeing the same thing in this guy. It's the talent, for sure, because you don't just forget being an FBS rushing champion, but I really think it's more about the makeup. It's the chip on his shoulder. It's the way he approaches every single day like he's trying to earn his spot all over again. These are your glue guys. These are the bottom of the roster pieces that don't get any of the credit, but they hold a locker room together. Now look, let's be real. Nichols probably isn't starting for this team barring some kind of disaster. He's probably not even pushing for a real backup role right now. But if you're building out the back of your roster, if you're stashing pieces on the practice squad, you want guys like this. You want the athlete who still needs polish, sure, but you also want the leader, the example setter, the guy who says the right things and does the right things every single day. That's exactly what Nichols brings to this Steelers team. And honestly, when you zoom out and look at the running back room as a whole, I think it actually makes his presence even more valuable because there's genuinely some uncertainty at that position for Pittsburgh right now. There was a recent ranking that came out looking at backfields across the league, and Pittsburgh's group, the combination of Jaylen Warren, Kaleb Johnson, and the rest of that room, they didn't rank very high at all. I mean, we're talking a room that landed way down in the 20s out of 32 teams. And for a franchise that's always prided itself on being able to run the football, that's a little bit of an eye-opener, honestly. Look, in year one under Aaron Rodgers last season, the run game was kind of just okay, middle of the pack, nothing special. And when the run game stalls, that puts even more pressure on the quarterback to bail everybody out. So there are legitimate questions here about whether this room is deep enough, whether it's talented enough, and I think that's exactly where a guy like Nichols can matter. If Kaleb Johnson doesn't take that next step, if injuries hit, which, let's be honest, they always do at running back, Nichols is sitting right there ready to step in and be a steady, dependable piece. But honestly, guys, I don't even think his biggest value shows up on Sundays. I think his biggest value might be showing up every single day in practice. Think about it. Drew Aller is the rookie quarterback trying to learn a brand new system under Mike McCarthy. And who's out there running routes and taking reps with him during camp and throughout the season? Guys like Nichols. This is where practice squad depth actually matters, guys. You want your young quarterback developing around veterans, around mature players, guys who aren't out there making rookie mistakes, guys who actually understand the offense and can help speed up that whole learning curve. And I think Nichols understands exactly how valuable that role is for his own career, too. Because if he's out there every single day helping Aller, helping the young quarterbacks look sharper, making the whole operation run smoother, that's exactly the kind of thing that keeps a front office wanting to keep him around for another year. It's a two-way street, honestly. He helps the team develop the most important position on the field, and in return, he keeps carving out a spot for himself. So look, will Lou Nichols ever turn into some huge household name for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Probably not, if I'm being honest with you. But is he exactly the kind of quiet, dependable piece that a team needs at the bottom of the roster? 100% yes. He's a low-cost, zero-risk depth piece who brings real physical tools, real production history, and just as important, real leadership and maturity to a locker room that's going through a ton of change right now with a brand new coaching staff. So that's why I wanted to bring this one to you guys today, because this is exactly the type of under-the-radar story that doesn't get talked about nearly enough. Everybody wants to talk about the big free agent signings and the flashy draft picks, and don't get me wrong, those matter too, but it's these quiet moves, these practice squad survivors who stick around through every single cut that honestly tell you a lot about what a coaching staff actually values. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Do you think Lou Nichols ends up carving out a real role for himself this season, or do you think he stays buried on that practice squad all year long? I want to hear your thoughts on the running back room as a whole, too, because I know a lot of you have strong opinions on whether Pittsburgh needs to go add another proven name at that spot. Drop it all below, guys. I read every single comment. If you enjoyed this one, smash that like button, and I'll catch you in the next one.